Disclaimer: this story is based on true events shared with us. Identities have been changed to protect privacy. Viewer discretion is advised due to sensitive themes related to relationships and infidelity. He walked in without warning. No knock. No message. No call. Just walked in. It was a regular Thursday afternoon, the kind where the world feels slow and predictable. I had just made myself a cup of tea, the kind I always make when I know I have the house to myself. My husband, Raj, was supposed to be out of town for a work trip. He had left 2 days ago, suitcase in hand, a tired but familiar kiss on the forehead, and that reassuring smile he always gives me when he knows I'm overthinking. He said he'd be back by Sunday. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? So when I heard the front door creak open and slam shut behind someone, my heart skipped a beat, but not out of fear. It was confusion. I wasn't expecting anyone. I quickly peeked out the living room window, hoping maybe it was a delivery guy or maybe a neighbor by mistake. But no. It was him. Raj. Standing in the hallway, staring at me like I was the one who wasn't supposed to be there. I froze. The silence between us was so loud I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears. He didn't say anything right away. Just dropped his bag on the floor and looked around the room slowly. His eyes settled on the 2 mugs on the table. One was mine. The other wasn't his. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry. Raj, you're home early. I attempted to smile, but my face wouldn't cooperate. His silence scared me more than if he had screamed. And then, just as I opened my mouth again, a sound came from upstairs. Footsteps. At that moment, the air felt heavy. Like the house itself knew something was wrong. His eyes shifted from mine to the staircase. I turned to follow his gaze, silently begging whoever was up there to just not move. But it was too late. I could feel everything unravel in slow motion. My mind raced, not just through the events of the past hour, but through the past few months. The late-night texts. The extra showers. The guilt. The lies I told myself more than anyone else. I hadn't planned for this. I thought I had more time. Or maybe I thought I'd never be caught. Maybe I believed I could just go on living in this messy, hidden version of my life without facing the truth. But Raj had walked in. And with him came everything I had been running from. He didn't yell. He didn't demand answers. He just stood there, taking it all in. I think that's what made it worse. The way he looked at me, not with anger, but with this deep, crushing disappointment. The kind that breaks you in places you didn't know could break. I started to speak, to explain, to apologize, but the words never came out right. How do you explain something that even you don't fully understand? How do you justify hurting the one person who trusted you the most? The footsteps upstairs grew louder. Slower. Whoever it was, they knew now. Knew he was home. Knew the truth had just crashed into the walls of our home like a silent bomb. I couldn't move. Couldn't decide whether to run, to scream, or to confess everything in one breath. Raj took a deep breath. Still no words. Just that same, heartbreaking stare. And then, he started walking toward the stairs. And that's when I knew. Everything was about to change. Forever. But what happened next, even I didn't see coming. Raj walked up the stairs slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. I wanted to stop him, to reach out and say something that would make all of this disappear. But I just stood there, frozen in place, staring at the spot where he had dropped his bag. Everything felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart in front of me. But this was mine. This was real. The footsteps upstairs had stopped. Whoever was up there had clearly heard him too. And I knew he was still standing in the hallway, unsure whether to come out or wait. I could almost feel his panic from where I stood. As Raj reached the top of the stairs, I finally moved. I followed him slowly, trying to think of something, anything, that would make sense. But nothing did. The hallway light flickered a little as I climbed. It made everything look even more strange, like we were trapped in a moment we didn't belong to. Raj didn't turn to look at me. He stopped outside the guest room door, the one I thought was the safest place. It wasn't even locked. That's how careless I had become. Or maybe that's how tired I was, tired of hiding, tired of lying, tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I still remember the first time I met Aryan. He wasn't supposed to be anything more than a friend. We met at my friend Mitali's birthday dinner. He was charming, funny, and spoke with this calm confidence that immediately pulled people in. Raj had been traveling a lot for work back then. Weeks would go by where we'd barely talk. I had always told myself it was just a phase. Every couple goes through it. But that phase never ended. And slowly, I started to feel invisible in my own home. Aryan was the opposite. He noticed everything. The way I always added too much sugar to my tea, how I covered my nervousness with a smile, how I never looked people directly in the eye when I lied. He made me feel seen. And slowly, what started as harmless conversations turned into late-night calls, coffee meetups, and eventually, things that I promised myself I'd never do. But even then, I never meant for it to go this far. I told myself I had control, that I'd end it before it went too deep. But feelings have a way of ignoring logic. And so here we were, Raj standing outside that room, Aryan behind the door, and me stuck between two versions of my life. Raj placed his hand on the doorknob. I held my breath. He didn't turn it right away. Instead, he turned to me for the first time since he walked in. His eyes were calm, but cold. Like the silence before a storm. "Is there someone in there?" he asked. I couldn't answer. I looked down. That was all the answer he needed. He nodded once, slowly, and then turned the knob. The door creaked open. The light inside was off, but the curtains were drawn back just enough for the sun to spill in. And there, standing like a deer caught in headlights, was Aryan. He didn't move. Raj didn't either. They just stared at each other, as if trying to figure out who should speak first. I couldn't breathe. I had never seen Raj like that, so still, so unreadable. I didn't know if he was about to hit him, yell, walk out, or do something completely unexpected. Aryan looked at me once, then back at Raj. He finally spoke, his voice low and almost shaky. "I didn't mean for this to happen." But that sentence felt so useless in that moment. Nothing either of us said could change what Raj had just walked into. And yet, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't say a word. He just turned around, walked past me without looking back, and went straight down the stairs. And I followed him, not to stop him, but because I had to know what he was going to do next. But when I reached the bottom of the stairs, he was gone. The front door was wide open. I stood there at the door, the wind brushing against my face as I stared out into the street. Raj was nowhere in sight. His car was gone. Just like that, he had vanished, leaving behind a silence that screamed louder than any words ever could. I didn't move for a while. I think part of me hoped he'd come back, maybe storm in again, demand answers, let it all out. But there was nothing. Just the stillness of a house that had just been split in two. Upstairs, Aryan hadn't moved either. When I finally closed the door and turned around, he was standing halfway down the stairs. He looked pale, nervous, unsure of what to say. I didn't want to look at him. Not because I hated him, but because I hated myself. All the things I'd buried over the past year had finally forced their way to the surface. And I wasn't ready. "I should go," he said quietly. His voice was soft, but it still felt like it scratched the walls of my already breaking thoughts. I nodded, still not ready to say anything. He hesitated, maybe waiting for me to stop him, maybe hoping I'd explain. But I didn't. And just like that, he left too. The house felt too big suddenly. Too quiet. I walked into the kitchen, still untouched, 2 mugs still sitting on the table like they didn't know what had happened. I sat down and stared at the cold tea. The clock ticked louder than usual. It was like time itself was reminding me how much damage had been done in just a few minutes. Later that evening, I texted Raj. Simple words. Please come home. We need to talk. He didn't reply. The ticks showed he'd seen it, but that was it. No response. I sent another message after an hour. Still nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, from the moment Raj walked in to the way he looked at me, like he didn't even recognize me anymore. And in truth, I wasn't sure I recognized myself either. What had I become? A wife who'd broken her vows? A woman who let loneliness cloud her judgment? Over the next few days, things got worse. Raj didn't come home. He didn't call. He didn't block me, but he didn't respond either. I reached out to his sister, Anya, asking if she knew where he was. She was cold. He's safe, she said. But he doesn't want to talk to you. That hurt more than I expected. Raj had always been quiet, not the type to explode. But I had never seen him shut down like this. It was like I'd been erased. Meanwhile, Aryan texted me too. A long message about how sorry he was, how he never wanted to be the reason for a broken home, how he hoped I was okay. I didn't reply. Because the truth was, I wasn't okay. And I didn't know if I ever would be. And then came the twist I didn't expect. 2 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. No name. Just a few chilling words. You think this is the worst part? You don't know what's coming next. That's when I realized, this story was far from over. I read that message over and over again. My hands were shaking. You think this is the worst part? You don't know what's coming next. I didn't recognize the number. I tried calling it, but it went straight to voicemail. My mind spiraled. Was it Raj? Was it Aryan? Or someone else entirely? I had no idea who else even knew. That night, every creak in the house made me flinch. I double-checked the locks. I turned off all the lights. I sat in the dark, scrolling through old photos of Raj and me, birthdays, vacations, quiet Sunday mornings. We looked so happy. So normal. And now I didn't even know where he was. Or what he was thinking. Or what he was planning. The next morning, I found a white envelope on the doorstep. No name. Just my first initial in black ink. Inside was a printed photo of me and Aryan, sitting in a cafe, laughing. Someone had followed us. Someone had taken that photo and waited for the right moment. I felt sick to my stomach. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was something else. Something darker. I texted Aryan, asked if he'd ever noticed anything strange. He called immediately. He sounded just as confused. I swear, I don't know who would do this, he said. Maybe Raj hired someone? But that didn't sound like Raj. He wasn't the type to play games. If he wanted to confront me, he would. But he was gone. Silent. And now it felt like someone else had taken control of the story. Later that day, I got another text. This time with a video. It was footage from my own living room, from that day. The camera angle was low, hidden. It showed everything. Raj walking in. My expression. Aryan frozen on the stairs. Someone had been watching us. Recording us. I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone. And in that moment, one terrifying thought took over. This wasn't just a story of infidelity anymore. Someone was out for revenge. I stared at the video until my phone screen dimmed on its own. My whole body was tense, like every muscle had locked in place. I felt like a prisoner in my own home, not knowing who was watching me or why. I tried to think logically, how could someone have installed a camera inside my house without me knowing? Then it hit me. The handyman. 3 weeks ago, Raj had insisted on getting a few repairs done, something about the hallway wiring and a new lock for the guest room. He said a guy from work had recommended someone reliable. I barely paid attention then. The man had come and gone while I was out running errands. Raj handled it all. But now I couldn't stop thinking, what if Raj had set this up? What if he had started suspecting something and planted cameras before leaving for that work trip? The dates lined up too perfectly. What if that trip was just a cover? Just as I started putting the pieces together, another message popped up. This time it wasn't a threat. It was a question. Still think you know who you can trust? My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't know who to respond to. I didn't even know who I was dealing with. Was it Raj, trying to make me spiral? Was it Aryan, trying to twist the situation? Or someone else entirely, someone neither of us had seen coming? I called Raj again. Straight to voicemail. Then, without warning, my phone buzzed with an unknown video call request. I almost declined it. But something in me, curiosity, guilt, maybe fear, made me accept. What I saw on the screen drained the color from my face. It was a live feed. Of my bedroom. Someone was still watching me. And they wanted me to know. The live feed froze for a moment, then resumed, showing my bedroom from a high corner, exactly where the ceiling vent was. My heart raced. I grabbed a chair and climbed up, pulling the vent cover down with shaking hands. And there it was. A tiny black camera. Hidden. Watching. Recording. I tore it out and threw it across the room. I called the police immediately. When they arrived, I handed over the footage, the texts, everything. They started tracing the number and sent a tech team to sweep the house. Within an hour, they found 2 more hidden cameras, one in the hallway, another in the guest room. All had been professionally installed. The officer asked if I had any idea who might have had access. I only said one name. Raj. The next day, he showed up. Calm. Quiet. He didn't come to fight. Just stood at the doorway and asked, "Can we talk?" I nodded. He admitted everything. He had suspected something for a while. The missed calls. The vague excuses. So instead of confronting me, he planted the cameras, watched silently, and left that day knowing what he would find. But the shocking part wasn't just that he'd been watching, it was that he wasn't the one sending the messages. They weren't from me, he said. Someone else was in on this. And that's when the final twist hit. The police called later that evening. The number had been traced. The messages, the live feed, all came from someone I never suspected. Mitali. My best friend. The same one who introduced me to Aryan. She had known the entire time, and had been playing all sides, watching the chaos unfold. And just like that, the real betrayal had a new name. When the truth about Mitali came out, I didn't know whether to feel angry or heartbroken. She had always been close, trusted, constant, like a sister. But behind all the friendly advice and fake concern, she had been the one feeding the flames. Her reason? She had feelings for Aryan. She had introduced us only to get closer to him herself, and when he chose me instead, something inside her snapped. Watching everything fall apart was her way of getting revenge, slow, quiet, and devastating. The police handled the rest. Charges were filed for illegal surveillance, digital harassment, and trespassing. Aryan cut ties completely. He left the city soon after, texting me a short goodbye. "Take care," was all it said. Raj and I? We talked. 4 hours. Days. About everything we'd avoided. The distance. The silence. The mistakes. He didn't forgive me right away, and I didn't ask him to. But he said something that stuck with me. What hurt wasn't what happened, it's that you never told me. We didn't go back to how things were, but we didn't break either. We took space. We took time. And slowly, we started talking like real people again, not like strangers who shared a house. This story was never just about infidelity. It was about choices, trust, and how even the people closest to you can be hiding their own secrets. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: betrayal doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes, it walks in quietly, and you don't see it until everything else goes still. And that silence? That's when the real truth begins to speak. 3.